Today we share the second film in the Screaming in This Life series, continuing from the last film. Demon Slayer strikes again. The film is packed with unexpected turns and enigmatic suspense. Any of them could be the killer. In comedy, horror movie cliches are still being spoofed. Alright, enough of the small talk, let the story begin. The movie starts in the movie theater. The story of the Demon Slayer from the previous installment was adapted into a movie by people. Received much love from many fans. Black Brother also holds the free movie tickets obtained, ready to go to the cinema and take a look. But Black Sister is not very interested in this. Believe that horror movies are just a group of people being killed profusely, and there has never been any involvement of black people in it. Under Black's persuasion, she finally entered the movie theater. The waitress handed them at the entrance 2 sets of Demon Slayer commemorative costumes. The audience in the cinema is cheering excitedly. Many people are wearing Demon Slayer masks, shouting and playing a game of chase. This movie is adapted from the book written by journalist Gale. As they walk to their seats, the movie began. 2 people enter, looking nervously at the big screen. The scene on the curtain is exactly the first scene of a shocking scream. The female protagonist receives a phone call from the assassin. I absolutely can't stand Hey Sister anymore. Why doesn't she just hang up the phone? Rant loudly, eliciting sighs from people around. Feeling bored, she left her seat to buy some popcorn. People next to me are discussing more than just a movie. And it did happen in real life. Watching people running around. Black Sister is a little scared. She was about to open the door and walk into the movie theater. Black Brother suddenly jumps out with Demon Slayer. She was startled. Black Sister complained to her and gave her a beating. She feels a little scared of this movie. After the play fight, the 2 happily kissed each other. Black Brother is getting ready to go to the toilet first. Black Sister immediately returned to her seat. The protagonist in the movie is being chased by demons. Black Brother arrived at the restroom compartment and found someone there. Only by stepping into the adjacent position can the demands be resolved. Suddenly, I heard a strange sound coming from the next room. He immediately crouched against the wall and listened carefully. The neighbor's ghost raised a dagger. The sentence translated in English is violently pierced through the wall and into Hey G's head. Black Brother covers his wound with his hand, looking in pain. In a short while, he lay down. The ghost-killing assassin next door quietly opened the door and walked out. The black gecko on the ground is completely lifeless now. Black Sister is nervously watching the movie from her seat. Suddenly, a man wearing a ghostly mask sat beside her. Heijia thought it was her boyfriend. Discussing the plot of the movie with him nervously. The female lead is caught up by the ghost. She was stabbed in the chest with a dagger. Black Sister timidly leans against the man. Suddenly, she found her hands covered in blood. The demon in front suddenly pulled out a knife. But her screams were completely drowned out by the audience's cheers. The protagonist in the movie was caught by the Demon Slayers, and the killing began. Black Sister stood up unsteadily, wanting to escape clumsily. The ghost caught up and repeatedly stabbed him. The audience cheered as they watched the massacre in the movie, running around screaming loudly, completely unnoticed. The podcast translates to Demon Slayer caught up with Big Sister right beside me, in English. Continued to insert the sharp blade into her body. Escaped quietly after completing the task. The flamboyant Black Sister slowly crawled to the front of the screen. Stand up, screaming in pain with your body covered in blood. Only the audience can perceive that something's wrong. In the eyes of the crowd, Black Sister struggled in pain, trying to make sense as she lay dying on the ground. Screen transition. Shinny, who was sleeping, was awakened by the sound of the phone ringing. She picked up the phone on the bedside table. The familiar voice of the killer came from across the street. Which horror movie does she like? Sini picked up the machine next to her. The man across the street's name and phone number were revealed, warning her that making harassing phone calls can lead to imprisonment. The man hurriedly hung up the phone. At this moment, her college roommate Harry walked over, asked her if she's okay. Sini is already used to this kind of thing. The news of Cotton's acquittal was playing on TV. Because of the book written by journalist Gale, she was only able to shed the accusation to prove her innocence. And through this, I often participate in various television programs. On the side, Shinny seemed a little entranced. Harry quickly reminded her to hurry up and get ready. I have to attend the party organized by the students tonight. Shinny absolutely does not want to go, but Harry strongly insisted that she attend. Learn to let go of the guard in your heart. A person ran over to them and urged them to quickly watch the news. Shinny just found out last night at the movie theater. When screening the movie Spirit Yell, 2 classmates in the university were killed. As soon as she saw that, she immediately left. In the movie classroom, the students are discussing the murder that happened in the movie theater with the teacher. Many people believe that it is because of this movie. Only then did these cases occur. But there are also some people who hold different opinions. Randy also believes that reality has nothing to do with movies. Mickey next to him thinks this is the murderer, creating a sequel in reality to become famous. Watch out for small foreshadowing here. Randy thinks that movie sequels are all terrible. Compared to the original, it's much worse. But others hold a different opinion. Mickey believes that many sequels have surpassed the original works. The students had a heated discussion for half a day, but still couldn't reach a conclusion. Sinai appeared outside the classroom at this time. Upon seeing the situation, Randy also packed up his books, left after class. Translation of letter in English to 2 people quickly. Shinny believes the killer has come back again. It is very likely to find us. But Randy doesn't care and thinks this has nothing to do with us. She doesn't want to look back on that period of time anymore. Prefer the current peaceful life. This is Sydney's new boyfriend. Derek ran over to say hello to Sidney. He also learned about what was happening inside the cinema. Run over and ask Sidney if everything is okay. Comfort him, saying I will protect you. The translation is they became intimate. Next to Randy became a light bulb. On the other side, female journalist Gale also arrived at the school. The murder case with the demon-faced killer was turned into a book by her, paving the way for fame. Became a popular TV host. And the TV station assigned her a new cameraman named Joel. At this time, a middle-aged woman nearby came over. The self-proclaimed fan of Gale wants to interview her. She is also a journalist herself. Her name is Dale. But he was also being sarcastic about Gale. For money and fame, write other people's painful experiences into a book. Gale left after scolding her. A group of journalists arrived at the garden. A press conference is being held here. Gale is asking the sheriff, is this a serial murder case? Is there a suspect? But so far, the police have not found any clues. In the campus, Sheeny and Randy also found Gale ahead. Few people were not surprised by this. Now she's a big celebrity. Randy is about to go up and take a look. Soon he turned around and found another familiar face. Happily ran over and hugged the Dewey under the tree. I heard about it happening, and she quickly rushed over. In the previous installment, Dewey's back nerve was severed by the assailant. Although by stroke of luck, I managed to survive, but has some disabilities in his hands and feet. Sheeny happily shared her school life with her. I've made a few friends and am currently socializing with people. Dewey is very worried about Sheeny. If the killer wants to imitate the killer from the previous case. So now she has arrived by Sheeny's side. She decided to stay here for 2 days to ensure Sinus safety. She limped away immediately. Several friends surrounded and asked who Sheeny was. At that moment, Gail also came up. I want to interview Sheeny. Cotton then walked up to the camera behind him. Sheeny was very surprised and embarrassed. She mistakenly identified someone before. Ketten killed his own mother. Gail did not have permission. What feeling does Sheeny have now that he wants to ask openly? What is your view on past murders? Sheeny got so angry that she turned around and punched her, knocking her to the ground. Keaton was a bit at a loss. She cares a lot about her interviews. Want to become famous through this. Questioning what's going on with Gail. She turned around in anger and left. As she continued walking, she met Dewey. Dewey also felt that Gail was extremely fickle and unscrupulous. Only cared about one's own fame and fortune, not caring about other people's feelings. And in the book describes Dewey. The translation in English is written as a comical clown character. This made Dewey feel very angry and embarrassed. But the two still have feelings for each other. Time always comes to the evening, even though Sidney doesn't like to attend parties. However, could not resist the invitation from my roommate. Join her at the party at the neighboring college. And in another dormitory, not far away, the blonde girl is talking on the phone with her best friend. Roast my boyfriend. Suddenly, someone called at this moment. The voice asked you who you are in a strange way. The blonde girl thought her boyfriend had gotten drunk. N.A. N.A. She was so frightened that she immediately ran to the front and locked the big door. However, at this moment she heard a noise coming from upstairs. Who was currently upstairs? Jean F.A. Lynn quickly wanted to call the security guard to come over. Suddenly, a girl appeared behind her. So it turns out that she was the one upstairs just now. The girl is ready to go to the party after picking up the things. The phone rang again, looking for the blonde girl. The black-haired girl waved goodbye and left. The voice on the phone was still that of the deranged killer. The blonde girl got so scared that she immediately dropped the phone. The alarm system has been activated. The frightened blonde girl looked around the corners of the room with fear. But nothing was found. The bell rang again. The blonde girl picked up the phone. At this moment, the ghost suddenly emerged from behind and attacked her. The translation into is the blonde girl hurriedly dodged and ran upstairs. N.A. The ghost face quickly caught up with the blonde girl. She was thrown out through the glass door of the balcony, then proceeded to stab her several times. He lifted her up high and threw her directly down from the building. Another successful murder case solved. People on the other side are still partying. Sidney found the conversation topics of the other girls extremely boring. Someone squatted down beside. Luckily, she had the company of her boyfriend, Lee Cote. At this time, the sound of police sirens outside caught people's attention. Everyone started running out to join in the fun. Derek, injured, was discovered by the police, and the murderer has already escaped without a trace. Dewey quickly returned to help bandage Derek's wound. Sidney beside is in pain and numb. This all played out once again. The police took all the students back to the police station for questioning. Mickey comforts Sidney sitting on the chair. You don't need to worry. We will always be by your side. Wow, Liku is truly so brave. To actually dare to run back into the room makes Sidney feel a bit strange too. The police also interrogated the injured Likiki. Her arm is not severely injured. Dewey also said, let the organs in this room directly fight with the killer. But in the end, she managed to escape. Dewey felt this was just too coincidental. Liku took the same angry suspicion. Dewey appeared just after the killer disappeared. People began to suspect each other. Several people in the police station started analyzing the case. Gail carefully discovered the names of the 3 victims. Some similarities can be seen between the 3 characters killed off at the beginning of this film and the previous one, including Casey and Steve. Sidney's mother is also there. It seems that someone is imitating the crime. The chief also sent 2 police officers to protect Sidney's security. Mickey suspects Randy a lot. She's the survivor of the previous accident. But the other 2 don't think so. Sidney then approached carrying a tray. 2 police officers are sitting in the distance, responsible for protecting the safety of Sidney. This makes Del Rey somewhat feel under the weather. However, she started singing to Sidney as she talked, expressing joy for Sidney in a cheerful manner, jumping up and down on the table. The crowd kept applauding for her. Then he proceeded to give his fraternity's necklace to Sidney. The translation is, the 2 people happily kissed each other. N.A. Dewey and Randy arrived at the restaurant. Let's discuss the development of the case together. As of now, it seems that someone wants to make a sequel to the movie. Then the killer will follow the rules of the movie sequel. Randy suspects it's highly likely Mickey. This guy is a horror movie enthusiast. Or maybe it's the 2 accomplices, including Harry, the Sidney roommate. This is both reasonable and unexpected. Randy then suspected it might be Gail. He's an opportunist who loves fame and fortune. But Dewey completely denies. He has a favorable opinion of Gail, but is unwilling to admit it. 2 people analyze back and forth. Still no results. Everyone is a potential suspect in the case, including themselves. In school, Sidney found her drama teacher. N.A. However, the teacher feels that he has a talent for performing. Encourage him to bravely face his own destiny. I strongly hoodwinked him. Let Sidney continue to participate in theater performances. Under his persuasion, Sidney still decides to continue participating. A group of masked figures on stage surrounded Sidney's character. The staff behind the scenes used various props to create stage effects. Amidst the sparkling lights and rumbling thunder, the drama gradually reaches its climax. A group of masked individuals surrounded Sidney and pulled out a dagger. It seems like they're about to kill him. But in the sights of Sidney, in the midst of lightning and thunder, the ghostly face also appears beside, wanting to take him out. Sidney was so scared that he ran around in the crowd, screamed, and bumped into the side of the ghost face body. And at that moment, the ghostly face in front of me had already disappeared. Sidney was so scared that she fell to the ground. The director quickly stopped the play. Sidney, who cried suddenly, ran to the backstage. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Riker actually ran over. Sidney feels a bit at a loss. After the demon mask disappeared, he appeared. There was nothing more to say in disappointment, just left. 3 other people gathered to discuss what had just happened. A ghostly figure nearly attacked Sidney on stage. The next person to be killed is likely among us, including the tigress and the photographer killed in the previous film. After hearing this, photographer Joel suddenly stood up and left. At this moment, Gail's phone kept ringing nonstop. Randy casually picked up the phone and told the person on the other end to stop calling. The translation is, and inside, the voice of the killer is clearly heard. He seemed to be looking at 3 people around him. The 3 people stood up nervously and looked around. Dewey instructed him to detain the culprit. I went with Gail to find the person who owns the mobile phone. Dewey converses with the killer. While paying attention, keep an eye out for people trying to find a culprit. Still the same classic question. Which horror movie do you like? And the other 2 people are also looking for the person making the phone call, snatching people's phones, but none of them are the culprits. Randy cursed the man on the phone, walked up to the photography car following a passerby, mocking the killer as an uncreative guy. Only knows how to plagiarize other people's plot. Just as he was extremely excited, a ghostly face suddenly emerged from the camera car and covered his mouth. Fan quickly killed Randy with a knife. Then he took off his clothes quietly and left. At this moment, the other 2 people only realized that something was wrong. Randy has disappeared. Then they met the photographer buying food. Several people walked up to the vehicle and opened the car door. Gail screamed in terror. Randy was discovered killed with his face covered in blood. Shinny is looking up information in the library. Received a timely notification from the library suddenly. And the content is that you are going to die right away. The police immediately sprang into action to protect Sidney at the side. These people are probably waiting as well. This way he can get a lot of money. Shinny doesn't care at all and is about to leave. Corton blocked him at the side, urgently pressing him step by step, but he was still rejected by Shinny. Got Curtin to curse at him loudly. The police union came running up and caught him. The police chief interrogated him in the police station. Cotton is very impatient with this. I am innocent. This has been proven many times. Unless you have evidence. Otherwise, just let yourself go. The police had no choice but to let him go. Dewey reassured him that everything would be fine. The police chief hurried over and asked Shinny to go back to the dormitory to pack up their things. The police will escort her out of here tonight. Shinny still doesn't understand the killer if it's not Ketten. Who will he be then? Dewey beside him assures himself that he will catch him. Gail happened to run into a journalist agent as she walked out of the police station. He kept asking him incessantly about this matter. Make Gail roll as far away as possible. Dewey also walked out of the police station. 2 people decided to go catch the murderer together. They remembered that the photographer captured many scenes at that time. If the murderer really enjoys every moment, so he will definitely appear on the videotape. The 2 of them excitedly decided to find a machine to play. Tom has always come tonight. They found the screening room at the film school, but the main door was locked. The 2 people quickly found a classroom with a projector. Between helping each other, they sparked the flames of love. Then the 2 of them put the videotape into the machine and started playing it. The scene consists of 2 people having a conversation inside. As they continued to gaze at each other, the 2 couldn't resist kissing. Just as they reached a crucial moment, the camera on the side suddenly showed a picture. The scenes on the screen are all of the victims being killed, clearly shot by the killer. Immediately, he followed with punches and kicks. When they got to the top, they found that the culprit had already disappeared. Walking out of the gate, 2 people were puzzled about where the killer could be. A demon suddenly jumped out from behind Gale. He launched an attack against him. Dewey fell down the stairs while trying to help. Fortunately, Gale dodged quickly one after another. Dodged into the adjacent room while running around in the corridor. I closed the door tightly as I entered the room. Just as I was about to leave, I noticed a ghostly face behind the glass in the next room. The ghostly face opened the door and entered the next room. Gale played hide and seek with him, blocking his view. Escaped successfully time after time. He ran to another room and closed the door. Dewey from next door also opened the door and walked in. Gale behind the glass yelled his name. But alas, the glass partition had such good soundproofing that he didn't hear a thing. While Dewey was distracted, the ghost face killer jumped out from behind. He ruthlessly plunged the knife into his back. Gale finally noticed the commotion outside. When I turned my head, I sadly saw Dewey being struck by the ghost face figure. He vomited a lot of blood and slowly fell down on the glass. The ghost across the street wants to continue killing Gale. Under urgent circumstances, Gale pushed over a shelf to block the door. Don't let him in at all. The angry ghost grabbed a chair and wanted to smash the glass. However, the glass quality is very good and does not break easily. Gale inside crouched in terror, unable to escape. When he turned around, he found that the killer had already disappeared. He narrowly escaped a disaster. 2 police officers are preparing to escort Sidney from the dormitory building. And Lee Kecker is here, waiting to bid him a final farewell. At this moment, Harry also followed over, getting ready to walk with Ginny. Lee comforts Sandy. Very understanding and considerate. After bidding farewell to each other, Sidney got on the car and left. After the vehicle drove away, a figure in a cloak walked through the woods behind Lee Keck's back. And ahead also appeared a cloaked figure. He said he was going to kill Lysett with his mouth. A group of men from the fraternity rushed out and grabbed him. They carried him away noisily. Then he tied him up on the theatrical stage because he gave away his fraternity necklace. This is unforgivable behavior. The crowd wants to punish him. 2 police officers stopped at the intersection waiting for the red light. Harry asked us where we were going. The police jokingly said they couldn't tell you. Otherwise, we can only silence you. At this moment, the ghost suddenly jumped out from the side of the car, then proceeded to break the car window. The police officer driving was killed. The 2 pairs of people in the back seat exclaimed repeatedly. The demon-faced man kicked the police officer to the ground as he climbed over the car, hit his head fiercely against the glass, trying to catch him. Then he threw him off. The car door was locked, and 2 pairs of people couldn't get out. The translation in English is, the demon-faced person sat in the driver's seat ready to drive away. The police suddenly raised their guns and stood up again. The sentence translated in English is, the assassin's foot hit the door abruptly. The vehicles are swaying from side to side as they speed down the road. Quickly lost control and crashed into the construction site next to it, coming to a stop on the spot. The police officer died after being pierced through the head by a steel bar. The 2 people in the back seat were hit quite hard, but it's nothing major. The ghost face killer in the driver's seat. It looks like she was knocked unconscious, Let's take this opportunity to escape quickly. But the vehicle was completely trapped. Neither of them dared to make any noise. Sidney noticed a gap in the iron fence next to her. The two people together managed to break down the iron net. Sidney then carefully tiptoed through the gap, trembling in fear, not daring to make any sound. He could only risk stepping over the killer. Sidney wanted to uncover the killer's mask with fear. Harry in the back seat quietly stopped him. To fight for time, he had no choice but to give up, slowly crawling out of the car window. I immediately wanted to help open the car door, but it's also impossible to achieve. Sidney encourages Harry to quickly climb out from the front. The two people did not dare to make any move for fear of alerting the killer. No danger. With Harry's help, he also managed to escape from the car in Sidney. The translation is, the two people hastily began to escape. At this moment, Sidney suddenly came to a stop. He insisted on going back to see the true face of the murderer. Harry strongly advised him that only a fool would do so, but Sidney insisted on going back to take a look. Otherwise, this matter will never end. I will still be hunted down. So he ran back to the car. I was surprised to find that the ghostly face on the driver's seat was gone. Reminder loudly to stay in place, Harry. Just as Harry was surprised, a demon suddenly appeared, grabbed his neck, and stabbed him a few times. From a distance, Harry looked at all of this in fear. The demon-faced Harry stabbed him to death, causing his flesh to become a bloody mess. Continued chasing Sidney in front. Sidney quickly turned around and ran away in fear. In the school's screening classroom, Gale carefully opens the door. If the killer is not here, they will escape. The result ran straight into Corton. I see him covered in blood. Cotton also explained that he found the heavily wounded Dewey, but Gale felt he was the killer and told him to quickly step back. Then he ran out of the classroom door. Shouting frantically at him. Grabbing the phone, she immediately wanted to call the police, believing that the killer was Colton. Debbie felt very surprised. Sidney ran in the campus and heard some noise coming from ahead. He arrived on the theater stage listening to the sound. The music machines here have all been activated. Is anyone shouting loudly in Sidney? He ran onto the stage. At this moment, someone suddenly turned on the front lights. The translation is, it shone straight towards the center stage in Sidney. The surrounding walls slowly coming down trapped Sidney in the middle. A person suddenly fell from above. Sidney was startled. He took off the mask and discovered it was Licca, so he quickly woke him up. Just want to save him and tell him that the killer is nearby. Just then, with a sinister face, the murderer walked onto the stage. Are you really going to let him go with a low tone of voice? Don't you know history repeats itself? The murderer took off the mask, and it was Mickey. He spoke provocative words from his mouth. I have colleagues while he's a science and engineering specialist. The angry defense of the science fiction on the shelf. Let Sidney quickly let himself down. But Sidney also has some doubts slowly receding. Science was in a hurry to loudly defend himself against the accusation of lying. Hurry and untie the rope. Mickey on the side is still adding fuel to the fire. Tell Sidney that the past is reliving. Sidney cannot be distinguished at once. Not sure what to do. Angry Mickey cursed at him in a string of insults. Mickey reached back and pulled out a gun, shooting it at his chest. This can now prove that Licca was not one of the killers. He really wants to protect Sidney. Sidney cried sadly. I am very sorry that I did not believe him. Before long, Licca died. Mickey next to him is very pleased. Science is completely innocent, and he was such a kind person, yet he died like this. Sidney gritted his teeth and greeted his mother. Mickey also begins to make mistakes that every villain makes. Began to talk incessantly about his plans. He won't avoid responsibility, which will lead the police to catch him. But the real highlight is yet to come in the trial. I am ready with my debate strategy. Blame everything on violent movies. I am just an innocent victim. People will enjoy this fascinating trial. Sidney thought he was a complete lunatic. Speak loudly. Your results will be the same as Billy's. When he's not paying attention, use the necklace to poke him in the face. He accidentally shot his gun and sent it flying. Two people engaged in a fight and chase. But Mickey still caught hold of Sidney's foot, tripped him to the ground. He then picked up the gun and held him at gunpoint. At this moment, Nick's body was lifted up, and Mickey does indeed have companions. The door behind opened, and Gale walked out from inside. However, there was a woman behind him holding a gun. It's Debbie, as mentioned multiple times before. Mickey is very excited he is Billy's mom. He and Mickey planned the murder together, completely changing their appearances. The two individuals met on a secret website online. Debbie sponsored Mickey's tuition fees, so he could go to school. It is he who guided and cultivated Mickey to do all this. Mickey is still excited about the upcoming exciting trial. Debbie exclaimed and shot directly. Hit Mickey a few times in a row. Gale next to still wants to escape. Mickey's shot hit the abdomen. Heavily fell off the stage. Mickey also slowly lay down on the ground. Debbie aimed her gun at Sidney, ready to take him out. If Mickey's motivation is to use movies as a justification, that Belt's motivatoin is very cliche. It's for revenge. Sinai killed his own son. It's only natural to kill him now. Zenny thinks he cannot escape legal responsibility, but Debbie had long planned everything. He will fabricate the scene and shift all the blame onto Mickey. Have him engage in a fierce shootout with Sidney. In the end, Shinny was also killed, and the plan was executed perfectly. Shinny still wanted to escape, but was dodged back by Darby. Then he proceeded to mock Billy again. Success has irritated Debbie as a mother, blaming it all on Exine's mother. She destroyed her own family. At this point, Shinny mentioned that Mickey at the back is still alive. When Di turned back, he directly smashed the wine bottle on her head, hastily hid behind the wooden door and locked it tightly. Darby fired a shot at the big door trying to break in. The light shattered and fell straight down alongside Sparks. Debbie still wants to climb higher. The props kept piling one after another directly onto the body. Lying still under the rocks. Behind the stage, Wesley closed the mechanism, and outside, there was no sound. She looked towards a nearby exit. I urgently wanted to leave from there. Debbie suddenly jumped out with a knife and attacked her halfway through the run. The battle prowess of the two individuals is evenly matched. However, Shinny had no weapons. Dobby was once again brought back to the stage. Before long, they found themselves at a disadvantage. She was going to stab Debbie, who was pinned underneath. However, at this moment, Cotton suddenly walked out with a gun. Debbie holds Sidney at knife point. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. It was only after Coden's explanation that I understood the situation. Darby still wants to seduce Cotton. Get yourself to kill Shinny, so you can make headlines. Becoming the only survivor can make you a star. And he also got you jailed for a year. Shinny loudly prevents. Cotton seems to have been moved by these words. It seems fine to do it this way. However, just as Debbie was happy, Cotton decisively fired and hit her shoulder. She still has a conscience and did not do that. Sidney thanked Ketten for stepping forward and handing him the gun. He then walked back to Debbie's side. Did he really die? At this moment, Gale suddenly reached out his hand from below. He was in the abdomen, but only superficially pierced. Cotton quickly pulled him up. 3 people gathered and looked at the treatment on the ground, afraid that he might stand up again for one last time. Finally, the police and doctors began to clean up the scene. They rescued the severely injured Dewey. He really had some luck, I must say. The dagger plunged into the scar tissue of his old wound, saved his life. The medical staff lifted him into the ambulance. Gale, worried, followed along. Sidney survivors surrounded by reporters wanted to talk about his experience as a hero. However, he passed this opportunity on to the neighboring Colton. He became a big star as he wished. The movie ends here. In terms of this film, even though it is a sequel to the first installment, but overall, it's still very good. The plot twists and suspense are handled quite well. Both innovative and classic tactics are present. Just like they say in the movies, break out of the old way of thinking, but also cannot completely detach. Alright, that's all for today's sharing. Yeah, my host.